Alejandro's 10th season with Musica Viva was coming up, and we all wanted to do something special. And what better way to celebrate something like that than with a recording that features new works that were commissioned during his time.
Reading literature, poetry, film influence what I write. You know, it's part of me. So a lot of my inspirations come out of things I've read or have come across. I might not be totally inspired at the moment, but I save it in the back of my head and I might approach it later on. This piece is a perfect example of just poems I've read through the years of these wonderful poets, some of which were never known, that wrote about their experiences during World War I. When Alejandro approached me to do this, I just started digging through what I had collected through the years and found some new discoveries along the way. One thing always leads to another, especially on the internet, forget it.
My father was killed right at the end of 1945. Actually, the war was over, but his Jeep hit a landmine. I was able to honor my father in a work called Elegies, a work created based on my father's letters from the war, because his letters to my mother, they were so funny. You know, he wasn't a man who expected to die. So they were just as adorable as could be. So he was always complaining about FDR and why am I here? And so I got a chance to honor my dad from that. That was 40 years ago. And then this came up and Joe asked me to sing it and I sent him a tape of myself because I'm almost 80. And I thought he better be aware of where I am vocally. And he said, no, let's do it. So it was a chance to think of my mom. It's very much the same story as the poetess who wrote the words. My mom was pregnant with me, and she managed to, I was very premature because of the shock to her system. And you know, she never got over losing him. She had a great life. She was more darn fun than anybody in the world. I adored her. My brother, we both adored her. But she never really got over it.
Listen to those Christmas songs again. Although you cannot hear.
Piece was inspired by sort of Buddhist idea of enlightenment. And I also know that in the Guggenheim there was a presentation of the works of James Turrell, the artist, and it was a light show, so to speak, or a light presentation. And I think that he was also inspired by that.
Oh, you should see the pile of sketches. Oh my gosh. It may be a gift to be simple, but it's not a gift I have. I have to work hard at it. I have to work really hard at it. I threw out 3 entire settings of a poem, completely different settings of a poem, beginning to end, and, just threw them out and started over again and did this.
I think it's a remarkable work. I think it's a remarkable work for several reasons. I get a feeling of contemplation and serenity. For me, in some ways, it's kind of unusual in the sense that it's very calming. It's written for strings, for chorus, and there's a piano part, which is essentially sort of like bells or chimes that come and reoccur throughout the work. And the crescendos and decrescendos on the different vowel sounds that the chorus sings just create this wonderful world of enchantment.
Maybe a little softer in the beginning if possible, and just a little bit more of a swell. And I think that probably that's...
Are the swells in general not enough?
They could be a little bit more. They could be a little bit more. You know, sometimes you have to throw out a lot of ideas, but I went back to my original idea, which was the James Turrell light sculpture that it was based on, which is this amazing light sculpture. And I went back to some ideas I had done when I was very young and wrote these pieces for wordless voices and decided to do something that kind of did that, and then everything fell into place.
So I want you to, this piece it's so beautiful and peaceful, and you're going to enter into this meditative state, but that's not your job. So look up.
So Danielle Buonaiuto, executive director of the group at the time, they were performing a few of my pieces from Songs of Lament and Praise. And so she wrote to me and asked if I would come to the concert, which was a virtual concert. It was January of 2021. It was just marvelous, and getting to hear Alejandro at the piano and seeing his work in the choir and getting to know Musica Viva's work. And then that spring, Alejandro wrote to me and had an idea about a commission. And I want to leave this to you in your hands. These are my thoughts, which is my favorite way to work, when I get thoughts from the commissioner. And I always want to know what my collaborator is on fire about. So we talked about it, and he had mentioned this idea of nature's was resonating for him. That Momotombo is a volcano. My mother really raised me to honor Rubén Darío, a very famous Nicaraguan poet. Then I went and I found Momotombo. It was a poem that I remembered. I lived with it a long time. And E.J. Squire, who wrote about his travels. And the Victor Hugo that's the preface to Momotombo, Les Raisons de Momotombo. And then I went to De las Casas, and I went to Oviedo to find these other mentions of Nicaragua and framing this experience. It's so central to Nicaraguan identity as a country that it was to me a very personal exploration. It was a place I wanted to go deep.
In any artistic project, the artists are very important, the most important perhaps. They're always recognized, the music, the artists, the performers. But any successful artistic project has, behind the scenes, significant effort that is not visible. So people don't recognize it very often. People don't fund it very often. I think it's very important to recognize that without that effort, there is no project. Really, the board wanted this, Alejandro wanted this, we all wanted it to happen. It was obviously not part of our regular season budget. We had to fundraise for it. And so our very generous board set out a matching grant to see if it was feasible, if there were patrons that would support this. And an extraordinary thing really happened in May of 2023. This matching grant was announced. It was a $25,000 matching grant. Within 3 weeks, our patrons responded And by the end of the month, we had 2/3 of the money, which was incredible. To me, that's incredible. In such short period of time, we basically raised $50,000. We realized, okay, this is possible, we can do it, let's do it. And of course, we had to do it quickly because the record had to be released during his 10th anniversary, which is this year. Normally, projects like this take a year and a half, and with much larger organizations that have department for scheduling and contracting and artist relations and all of that. We have none of that. We have a very small administrative staff, but we are all skilled, we are dedicated, we got to work, and we managed to do an extraordinary thing. We found the best recording hall in New York City at Purchase College. Through Richard Einhorn, we connected with Steve Epstein, who is the most incredible sound engineer. He has, I think, 16 Grammy Awards, countless nominations, worked with Yo-Yo Ma, Placido Domingo, New York Phil, everybody. Through Joe Turrin, we found Naxos, which is the premier label for American contemporary music. And then we scheduled 75 people to show up for 3 days in December, which is not easy in New York City, to go to Purchase, and we did 3 days of fantastic, flawless recording sessions. So it is quite extraordinary to do this with a very limited staff. It consists of myself, Erin Sensening, who is a production manager, but is also a soprano soloist in the choir and has a solo on the recording. And Dinah Nissen, who is our marketing director, contract negotiator, many other things, and is an alto in the choir. And so this joint effort, administrative effort, artistic effort, Alejandro, Trent, the musicians, the composers, and of course our board, we all came together and created this amazing product.
I'm extremely grateful. This is a project that has taken a lot of work from a lot of people, board members, staff, performers, composers, and this was done very quickly, and that demonstrates that really people care about this organization. I'm just extremely grateful for being able to put something together like this with very, very high quality. We've been commissioning works for about 10 years since I arrived, and these are the three pieces that I feel are most representative of who we are as an organization and what we're trying to communicate to our audience. They're beautiful, they are very significant in many ways musically, and I think they should be a part of every ensemble's repertoire. These are pieces that should live on forever. Such a proud moment for us to be able to commission works of this quality, record them, and to say that, they were written for us, and we brought them to this world and we're sharing them with everyone. This is just the beginning of the life of these wonderful compositions.